Udah.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Perkenalkan, nama saya Asa Hekaputri dan rekan saya Riska Dwi Ani akan memaparkan materi tentang fashion Inggris, Amerika, dan Indonesia pada abad ke-20. Sebelum mengetahui tentang perkembangan fashion, alangkah baiknya kita mengetahui terlebih dahulu tentang definisi fashion itu sendiri. Yang pertama, definisi fashion menurut Oxford Advanced Learner Dictionary of Current English adalah prevailing custom that which is considered must be admired and imitated during a period of a place. Dalam KBBI, fashion juga memiliki ragam cara atau bentuk yang mencakup gaya busana, potongan rambut, dan corak, dan lain sebagainya, yang terbaru dalam kurun waktu tertentu. Maka dari itu, fashion dapat berubah seiring dengan perkembangan zaman. Yang pertama adalah fashion dari British di abad ke-20. Pertama ada Edwardian Lady, a final for old school elegance imitated the span silhouette, a shape with a corset that forced hip back and bust forward, and a long tied and aptly named hobble skirt. Fancy blouses were ringwear, the less wealthy used applique lace, figuring the and pink tag to emulate detail high quarter. The Edwardian blouse returned with vigor in the first decade of 21st century, many widow hats of white brim and feathered trim were named after the popular Edwardian opera. Second is flapper girl, sporting short hair at the butt, shortish shift dresses, snub-closed hat, and a flat chest, often bandaged into submission. The flapper girls strove for a boy's look in the 1920s. A cigarette in a long holder usually complete the ensemble. The uncomplicated construction of the flapper dress led women to make their own, narrowing the disparities of fashion between classes. And then there is make do and mend. In wartime Britain, pillowcases became shorts and blouses, and leather soles were replaced with cork. Siren suit and kangaroo coat could be shaped in a hurry. Their roomy pocket quickly filled with essential on the way to the arid shelter. And then teddy boys take a long jacket with a velvet collar, some drain pipe trouser, a narrow tie, a tax air scarf, and a pair of bridal scripts. And teddy boys emerged in 1950s and kickstart the fashion revolution of the following decade with its mode, rock, and hippies. Next slide will be presented by Riska Dwi.
Oke, selanjutnya adalah Biba, American, and the miniskirt. Despite the egalitarian need of the early 1960s, designer fashion remained restricted to the wealthy. Biba changed all that in 1964. It was a London fashion boutique that sold European looks at a fraction of the designer price. The Biba brand became hugely successful, and the other similar ventures followed, including Miss Selfridge, a groovy spin-off from the Oxford Street department store. Meanwhile, Mary Kwan looked inches of hemlines, introducing every British girl to the miniskirt, even while it was actually invented by Andrew Courage. Next. Next is 1970s, the most vibrant decade of recent British fashion and had an anything goes feel. Early on, hippies popularized kaftan, macron bags, and Afghan coats. The first of the 1960s widened out to the bell-bottom proportion before high-waist striped trousers and platform soles stood into view. Next. the major British designer of 20th century fashion. Look back to 1857, and it turns out that an Englishman, Charles Ford, initiated haute couture. He opened the first Parisian shop offering set dress design based on annual fashion shows. Previously, the wealthy had simply suggested designs to anonymous seamstresses. Back in Britain, Norma Hatnell was an important 20th century name, dressing the likes of Noel Coward and Marlene Dietrich in his London salon, before creating the Queen's coronation dress in 1953. A new wave of designer mixed nonconformism with sleek tailoring in the 1960s, drawing their inspiration from street fashion and establishing London as a sartorial hub. They were led by Mary Quant and Sandra Rhodes, who set up her own London boutique in 1969, selling radical print design, and who would develop punk fashion with reverse seams and jeweled safety pins. Vivienne Westwood was the other grand dame of punk clothing. The 1980s was the decade of Catherine Hamnett, who flogged the teaser slogan for years, and Bruce Oldfield, Ronaldo's boy-turned celebrity culture heroes, dressing everyone from Princess to Diana Ross. Paul Smith also cultivated a glowing reputation, taking the classic man suite and throwing in a splashes of color. He calls it Savile Row meets Mr. Bean. Smith, like Oldfield, Hamnett, Westwood, and Rhodes, is still making clothes. Selanjutnya yaitu Fashion of America in 20th century. First of all, 1900, the beginning of the last century featured a lapse Victorian rigidity, albeit gradually. Silhouette become looser, skirt shortened, though no cut forbid above the calf, and hair less coveted. We often focus on assessment of later decades without noting the roots of it. Next. Next is 1910. In this era, clothes were more practical, with less adornments. For example, women widely began to wear pants in the 1910s. For a day in the 1910s, were clothes of good quality and simple design, perhaps monochromatic, with deceptively simple hair. Burns braids. Next. Next. Next is 1930. Simple floral dresses, natural hair, and modest coverage were common, with decoration generally limited to frill or two. Of course, there were the old Hollywood stars of the same time, who epitomized glamour, so you have two very different options. You can go with a rustic and respectable look, or you can break out the skills and velvets. Wavy hair has considered attractive, as was dark eye makeup. Next is 1940. 1940's female dress silhouette was like a uniform, simple and fit, with boxy shoulders and a slim belt waistline, and a hemline below the knee. The style shown here is for a utility dress from the United Kingdom that could be purchased with ration corpus. In cold weather, you might see women in long-sleeve dresses of similar shape. 1950, the 50s were all about embodying the idea of perfect family in America. Therefore, girls and women cultivate a domestic beauty. Modesty and attractiveness played off one another, giving rise to such trends as body emphasizing dress, pencil skirt, and button-up blouses. Hair was worn simply and to enhance volume, with makeup meant to catch eyes. Nineteen sixties. The typical daytime look consisted of a bulbous hat over a high woven coiffure, silhouette with deep armholes and wide sleeve, and a rounded jacket that tapered in at hem. Long waist dress, often with an blouse, replaced the fifth waistline and full skirt. There were also hints of twenties and thirties with blouse by skirt clothes, long straight over blouse and sassy tunics, short skirts, closely fitting hats, and extra-grade makeup, especially red lips and short hair. For women, the hippie look of the 1960s carried over to early 70s. Popular styles include bell-bottom pants, gray jeans, midi skirts, maxi dress, tie-dye, pigeon blouses, and ponchos. Men's early 97 fashion was largely influenced by bright colors and textures. Satin shirts, sometimes with ruffles or lace, were often paired with hip-hugging bell-bottoms. Bright color, three-piece, and double-breast suites in corduroy, paisley, wool, and crushed velvet were popular for special and even everyday occasions. Next. In 1980, women's clothing in 1980 ran the gamut from conservative to opulent fantasy. Many designers reached back in history for inspiration. They looked to the Middle Age, Renaissance, the Victorian era, and even Peruvian Indians for something new. 1980 witnessed a revival of the classic preppy look that began in New England prep schools in the 40s and 50s. And the last is 1980. The biggest difference in 1980 fashion was an explosion of color with alarming arrays of bright yellow, orange, red, purple, and green. Neon bright colors could be obvious as the primary color of a pair of pants, or they could be subtle as the color of a pair of short strings. Brocade, embroidered satins, and laces were important, but the most popular style of evening wear was slender black dress, worn quite short with a black stocking and a high-heel shoes. In the winter of 1980, 1990, the short, swingy coat was worn in full force. Women loved how racy the coat looked over short skirts. Casual styles such as anoraks and parkas were prominently seen in cold weather climates. Next will be represented by Heka.
Selanjutnya ada fashion Indonesia pada tahun 1900 sampai dengan 1930-an. Yang paling utama itu adalah menggunakan kain tradisional dan batik sebagai bawahannya. Wanita bangsawan mengenakan kebaya dengan kerah V, sedangkan wanita biasa mengenakan kain terusan yang dililit ke tubuh. Rambut yang disanggur rapi ke belakang dengan paras alami, serta menggunakan aksesoris sederhana seperti bros, kalung, dan gelang bagi kaum bangsawan. Sedangkan untuk kaum pria mengenakan penutup kepala khas dari daerah masing-masing. Selanjutnya di tahun 1940-an masih menggunakan kain batik dan kain tradisional sebagai bawahan. Akan tetapi pada tahun ini kebaya telah berubah dan termodifikasi menjadi kebaya kutub baru. Selain itu, rambut juga disanggur rapi dan mengenakan selendang tipis yang dipopulerkan oleh Ibu Fatmawati. Pada pria, peci mulai digunakan sebagai simbol nasionalisme dan pria mengenakan setelan jas yang rapi. Pada tahun 50-an, muncul tren fashion baru dengan menggunakan dress. Gaya berbusana dengan dress atau gaun bermotif floral dan stripe print sangat populer dalam era ini. Dan rambut tidak lagi disanggul, akan tetapi mulai dibuat ikal bervolume. Riasan wajah yang terjadi pada tahun 50-an ini menggunakan kesan atraktif dengan menggunakan lipstik berwarna merah cerah. Pria tampil tahun 60-an, penggunaan dress selutut dan rok mini mulai muncul pada gaya busana wanita. Gaya rambut wanita disasak ke belakang dan munculnya tren berbusana pria dengan atasan berwarna terang dan trouser sebagai bawahan. Lalu pada tahun 70-an ini cukup identik dengan gaya hippies dan retro seperti memakai baju berwarna cerah dan bercorak. Celana cut bray sangat hits dan digunakan untuk pria dan wanita. Pria memakai kemeja motif lengan panjang dengan gaya rambut afro dan ikal. Kacamata menjadi ikon penting dalam era ini. Lalu ada era 80-an. Busana wanita mengombinasikan warna terang dan baju yang kesannya oversize dan baggy. Makeup sehari-hari pada wanita 80-an ini terkesan lebih tebal dari tahun-tahun sebelumnya. Lalu pria identik dengan gaya rambut mulet dan menggunakan kaos oblong atau polo yang dipadu-padankan dengan jaket denim. Yang terakhir adalah tahun 1990-an, dan gaya berbusana pada tahun ini mempunyai berbagai jenis gaya dan terkesan lebih bebas dalam berpakaian. Gaya busana pria pada era ini identik dengan celana baggy dan tee graphies yang terinspirasi oleh skater boy. Gaya rambut pada pria yang populer pada era ini adalah curtain haircut ataupun yang bisa dinamakan dengan belah tengah. Perbedaan yang mencolok dari gaya berbusana British, Amerika, dan Indonesia adalah penggunaan kain tradisional atau batik yang digunakan oleh wanita dan pria Indonesia pada zaman dahulu. Sekian presentasi dari kami. Kurang lebihnya mohon maaf. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.